Do you ever wonder why some people seem to get everything they want? And what if you could finally experience the life you always desired, the life you were created to experience, full of purpose, adventure, and fulfillment? Well, there is a pathway by which all desires are fulfilled, and I'm breaking it down for you today. So let's dive in. I used to look at others around me and wonder why it seemed like everything they touched turned to gold, while I was stuck on the struggle bus. I remember the first time I ever tried to host my own ministry event. I had seen some powerful ministers sway large crowds and move them to take massive action, often people weeping pools of tears on the ground. And I thought, man, I want to do that. I want God to use me in that kind of way. I want God to use me that way. So just a few months after Jesus found me, I decided to host a rally. I rented the local amphitheater. I got a band, the sound equipment, got a guest speaker to help shoulder the preaching. I printed flyers and I passed them out in the school. I remember the choir director was so confused. Like, she saw the flyer and said in front of the whole 200-person choir, "He never acted like a Christian in my class." Well, I was just a new believer, but man, I went to all the church youth groups and I invited every student in my town to my rally. Well, the big day came and man, I was so nervous. As the hour approached, a few of my best friends stopped by. "Sorry, man, we can't make it. We're going to go watch the game." Side note, if you live in South Carolina, don't schedule your rally on top of the Carolina Clemson game. But I was so caught up, I didn't even know what the day it was. The hour came though, and no one showed. Well, a handful of people from my church came for moral support, but it was a disaster. And I wondered, what did I do wrong? How come this was working for others and not for me? And I actually drew the wrong conclusion. Maybe I wasn't supposed to do this. Maybe I wasn't called to speak. Maybe God needed to work on something in my character and he didn't want me to succeed. Listen, that event set me back a few years and introduced me to a very dangerous idea that maybe I shouldn't be so quick to go after a dream. Maybe God wasn't going to be in my corner if I pursued the desires that are in my heart. Well, here's what I didn't know then that I'm learning now. There is a pathway by which dreams become realized. And in that story, I skipped about half the steps and it ended in disaster. So let me save you some pain and frustration and unnecessary delay and share the system with you now. To understand the order of creation, the pathway by which all desires are realized, it's helpful to go all the way back to creation itself. In the book of Genesis, it says that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was formless and void, and the Spirit of God hovered over the surface of the deep. It's worth pointing out right from the get-go that when things look formless and void in your life, when it's completely dark and there's not even any structure from which to begin to build from, that the Spirit of God is already hovering. I don't know what situation you might be facing right now, and I can't know what caused you to join this episode, but if you're facing a dark situation, right? If you don't know how your dreams are ever going to come to pass, if you can't even see a pathway anymore to get you there, then it's actually time to let yourself get excited because the creative power of God is already standing by, ready to get to work. He's hovering over your situation right now, and something is about to happen. There's about to be an explosive release of power. Things are going to start coming together right in front of your eyes. But to understand what happens next, we need to skip ahead to another Bible verse. This verse, way over in the New Testament, Ephesians chapter 1, verse 4, makes it explicitly clear what is already obvious. It says that before the foundations of the earth, that God knew you. That is to say that the first step in the order of creation is to imagine. Before God said, "Let there be light," before he separated the sea from the dry land, before he spoke man into existence, he already knew each and every one of us in his mind. He could already see us in his imagination. The first two steps in the order of creation operate in the immaterial realm. One author referred to this part of the process as first creation. supporting the idea that everything that exists in the material realm was created twice, once in the immaterial realm, and then secondly in the material realm. If you're experiencing great difficulty realizing your desires, if it seems like I was, like it's a struggle all the time, if you feel like you're always hustling and not getting anywhere, you're very likely skipping over this important part of the order of creation. This is the hidden part of your power that you may not have tapped into yet. And the first step is to see it in your mind. With as much clarity as you can muster, you must imagine what it is that you desire. Now, I'm not saying to work up a desire. I don't believe it works that way. The desires are already there, guides given to you from God. You simply apply time and energy to see them as clearly as you can. Well, I have a lot to say about that in future episodes. But the second step is to speak. It's obvious when you think about it. Of course, God already imagined what he was creating before he created it. He first saw it in his mind, and then the next step in the order of creation, well, we see it in Genesis. God spoke what he saw. Let there be light, right? Let there be animals. Let there be all the things in the heavens, all the things that he spoke. Well, the second step is to speak with your voice. And this step may be more overlooked than the first. Many people pay no attention to what they are speaking, not realizing the power of their words. And yet speaking is how your desires are transmitted from the immaterial world into the material world. Have you ever felt like power being released through your words? I know I've been in situations where all I could do was to start speaking over something, and all of a sudden the atmosphere changed. My mindset changed, and all of a sudden the whole situation looked different. Now, the last two steps are how your desires actually materialize in the seen world. We're moving out of the immaterial realm and into the material. Back to Genesis, it tells us that God created a garden and he placed man to work the garden. Before God released man to work, he created an ecological system filled with resources within which that work could thrive. He made a garden. The third step is to sync. This deals with identifying the resources and systems that are already in place that will bring about your desires. The key here is to cooperate with the things that God has already set in motion. God has already put in place all the resources, people, and systems that you need. And finally, then the last step, and this is very familiar for those of you who are in the hustle and grind world, you have to start, right? You got to do the work. But this is so much different than you think. The last step in the order of creation was when God placed man to work in the garden. But this kind of work was way different than the toil that so many subject themselves to today. It wasn't until after the fall that God said that he's going to curse the ground. The ground is cursed because of you, right? That all of your life you will struggle just to scratch a living from it. But you can imagine that in the garden before that, work was abundantly fruitful. Every bit of effort created tremendous results. No sweat, literally. By the way, God removed that curse on the ground way back in the times of Noah. So sweat and fruitlessly toiling, right? When we do that today, it's not because of a curse. It's just because we don't understand the context under which we should work. When you start applying effort to work that is in sync with God's systems that he has already put in place, that's already empowered by the words that you have spoken, rooted in desires that he has revealed to you, you're going to experience a whole new kind of work. But you do have to start before you're ready, which we'll need to talk about in a future episode. This order of creation as a framework was first introduced to me by one of my mentors, Myron Golden. He likes to point out that when God said in Genesis, "Let us make men in our own likeness," that all we really know about the likeness of God at that point in the story is that he is a creator. We know that he sees things in his imagination and he speaks them into the material world. Being formed in his likeness, he has given us creative power just like his, the power to see dreams and desires materialized in the physical world. This is your hidden source of greatness. Well, I don't like to end an episode without giving you the success challenge of the week. This week, let me encourage you to start speaking the life that you desire. Allow yourself to be challenged to hold your tongue when you might normally speak words that you don't want, and to intentionally replace them with words that align with things you actually do want. And if you have any questions for me that I might be able to help you with on a future episode, post them down in the comments. I love to hear from you and to create content that's super relevant for you. So put them in the comments. My team will tee up those ideas for me on future episodes. Until then, have a great week, and we'll see you in the next episode. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. You know, great businesses and great leaders are built using effective communication. For more, go to speakingschool.com, grab my Elite Business Success Toolkit for free just for trying out our Speaking School membership. That's speakingschool.com. See you next time.